community in shock, a family left broken. More than 2 months after the body of Brian Lowe was found in this remote path in Aberfeldy in Perthshire, the search for answers seemingly has no end in sight. It was here where 65-year-old Brian was blasted by a shotgun killer, suffering fatal wounds to his neck and chest. Cops initially ruled he died of natural causes and are scrambling to try to establish why a still-at-large gunman shot the groundsman in a suspected planned attack. So what happened to Brian Lowe? And why did it take Police Scotland 6 days to announce a murder probe after his death?
Morning everybody. Police Scotland's major investigation team are continuing to carry out extensive inquiries in the Aberfeldy area following the murder of Brian Lowe. Around 8:30 a.m. on Saturday 17th of February 2024, the body of Brian was discovered alongside his black Labrador in the Perthshire area on the outskirts of town. Emergency services attended and he was pronounced dead at the scene. Mr Lowe's death was initially assessed as being non-suspicious and medical related, but following a medical examination it was established he had injuries consistent with being fatally shot. The major investigation team were then contacted and a 2-doctor post-mortem examination was scheduled. It took place on Friday the 23rd of February 2024 and confirmed Mr Lowe had been fatally shot. A murder inquiry was immediately launched thereafter. Family liaison officers were identified and Mr Lowe's next of kin were made aware on the afternoon of Saturday 24th of February about the significant update in this case. The major incident public portal link was then set up on the Monday and released to the public on Tuesday. It allows them to submit information directly to the inquiry team. Brian's family continued to be supported by these specialist officers and asked for their privacy to be respected as they come to terms with what has happened. Since criminality was established on the Friday evening, the major investigation team have carried out a number of lines of inquiry and we are keeping an open mind as to the motive in this case. We are now turning to the public for information. Aberfeldy is a remote area with a close-knit community and anything unusual would stand out. I'm asking anyone with information, if you noticed anything out of the ordinary or heard anything of concern, to please contact us, as it could be vital to our investigation.
It's that apparent lack of police action that has been blasted by retired murder cop Peter Bleksley. He fears the botched early days could prove catastrophic for the case.
Police officers, when they arrive at such a scene, should always, and I repeat, always, and this is a quote from a book that was called The Murder Manual, that was taught to uniform and detectives. The thought is, think murder until proven otherwise. Clearly, in this case, that was not the situation. And I think that assumptions were made. I think police officers probably assumed that this was some form of medical condition that may have led to Mr. Lowe's death. And that mistake could be catastrophic in terms of the investigation and the likelihood of finding whoever was responsible for this appalling crime. Well, a crime scene, of course, is so often vital to any investigation because crime scenes always give up their secrets. And it would appear from a distance, I will admit, that their investigation is stalling, that they're not getting very far with it. I hope, of course, that I'm wrong and they know a lot more than I do. But not preserving the scene properly, not potentially identifying a secondary scene is undoubtedly going to make this investigation much more difficult. And in turn, if somebody is ever arrested and charged with this crime, could also make proving it in a court of law very, very challenging.
The colossal investigation into the murky circumstances surrounding Brian's death is slowly becoming clear. This week, Police Scotland searched around 500 properties and have looked at around 2,400 hours of CCTV footage. A crack team of 31 officers have joined the hunt, with operational support being hauled in from across the country. But it's little comfort to locals who fear a gunman may still be on the loose.
I know that the police have obviously been working hard since they decided that this was a murder, and they've been doing a lot of work in the town, knocking on doors, speaking to as many people as they can to try and establish, firstly, what the motive is for this killing, and obviously through that to try and identify the person responsible. As far as I'm aware, and I think it was confirmed yesterday, they still don't have a suspect, they still don't have a motive, and that's perplexing, obviously, for the community, and it'll be perplexing for the family as well, that they don't know why Brian was killed. So, you know, I know they've put in an appeal for witnesses. They believe that the answer to the problem lies in somewhere in the community, and that there's somebody who knows something that will help the police. And I would ask anybody with information to please come forward, speak to the police. If they want to do it anonymously, they can always contact Crime Stoppers, provide the information that way. But if there is information out there, we need to hear it. The police need answers, the family need answers, and you know, we need to help them to solve this crime.
And for people who don't know Aberfeldy, can you give us some insight into how unusual an incident this is for a town like this?
Sure. This is a lovely rural community in Highland Perthshire, population of around about 2,000 people. And whilst there is crime in the community, nothing like this has happened in decades. I think you have to go back to just after the Second World War for a murder to have happened in this area. So it's entirely out of character with the area, and people, you know, are to say perplexed as to why it's happened and why Brian was targeted for this. And as a community, as I say, we need to know how this has happened, why this has happened, and we need to support the police in what they're trying to do.
Yeah. And just finally, there would be obvious concern knowing that whoever's responsible is still out there.
Well, of course, you know, we obviously want the police to catch the person responsible. I suppose for the community's concern is that person among us? You know, do they stay in this community, or have they come into this community and left it? And we don't know the answer to that, and that's, you know, of concern to the community. Obviously, things have settled down, I think, since the murder. Nothing else has happened, which is you know, thankful for that. But it is a you know, a worry that the person is still at large, and we need to try and help them please catch this person.
It's totally unusual. I mean, you can see it's a peaceful, sleepy little town, and we've just been absolutely rocked by it. I suppose the fact that nobody knows what's happening. Police are coming around asking questions, but don't seem to have got very far.
And just give us your reaction when you heard what had happened to Mr. Lowe. You must have been horrified.
I was just completely and utterly stunned. Nothing like this has ever happened in Aberfeldy or roundabout before. It was just completely unbelievable.
And obviously we know now that the police are putting a huge amount of resources into the investigation, but in the beginning it seemed to get off to a poor start. Is that something that people have been talking about?
We were actually not here when it began, but yeah, I mean, the feedback, everybody is still talking about it, all the restaurants and cafes and the pubs. And yes, people are saying it was very strange that nothing has happened until now, and it seems suddenly to have geared up. I don't understand what took them so long at the beginning.
Well, nobody knows what's really going on, and there's not much information that's getting passed, and yeah, I think it's put a lot of people kind of wondering what's going on, because it's and all the things that the rumours of what's happened, it doesn't make sense.
The more than 30 officers involved in the investigation insist they'll leave no stone unturned. But with more than 2 months since Brian's death, that desperate search for answers continues. We'll be bringing you the latest updates on this story in print and online at thescottishsun.co.uk. This is Graham Mann in Aberfeldy for the Scottish Sun.